Hi, this is Ida Norris. I want to welcome you to the first part of our news series, which is From the Judge's Box. Today, we have a clip of the Centerline at intro level from a rider riding a Mustang. This is Dana Roberts from Georgia on a beautiful, beautiful Mustang. And Dana asked us to evaluate the center line for her. And this was when the horse was at intro. And we've got the test part up here for you to look at. So we're just going to go ahead and take a look at this. Before I push the button, as the judge, looks up and the horse is approaching the center line, of course, you see we get a little tiny bit of a side view for them as they begin to enter the ring. And then as she hits the center line, I get to start judging. So we're going to push the button there. Okay, good start. She came right in on the center line here. One thing, I'll just stop right here for a second. Covering the center line, I don't see A behind her, so that's good. She hit the line. That's a big deal at intro level. A lot of people miss the line. As a rider, I can see that she's slightly unlevel, a little bit high on her left side, a little bit low on the right for her. And I'm observing that I feel like her arms are unlevel and uneven. They could be a little closer together here. We're not just judging the horse because later I have to evaluate her equitation at the end of the test. There's the two marks of how effective is she? Does she stay in balance with the horse? And also her alignment. And on the center line is where we can begin to see, are they even left and right on the horse? And you can see that this is a little bit lower and this is a little bit lower. So right now, not quite even on that center line, but amazingly enough, the horse looks really pretty good. So here he comes right up to, whoops. Okay, let's check that out. Did you see her list? It's my left, but it's your right, her right and left in the stirrups. And that happens when a rider sort of loses their balance and shifts back and forth in the stirrups. It happens while we make adjustments or whatever, but sometimes it's someone that hasn't learned yet to focus on keeping their weight even in both stirrups, particularly in posting. You have to teach riders, hey, you have to keep the weight the same in the stirrups all the time because otherwise the backpack is shifting. So we're going to just back that up and take a look at it because that's the kind of thing that a judge sees. So you're going to see her take a little list to the right there. And another one is right there and left and right and then left and into, and amazingly enough, a square halt. So hard to imagine because when a rider lists, usually the horses go off sideways. So this horse did a really good job with that. He did take a shift after his square halt. He moved his feet again. That's not the end of the world because that was a square halt and it was directly right into a pretty good halt. But, the other thing is here, which some judges would get real fussy about, is that he was jogging and he was supposed to do some working walk in there. So you know what? I'm going to back this up and see if he took some walk steps. Let's see if he did. He actually jogged. No, he took a couple of walk steps, so that's good. Really square halt. Little shift is coming. Okay, good. Well, we saw that. And now her hand's going to go out. Okay. So the horse is square. He's on the line. And you know me, I'm the salute police. She put her arm out. Everything was good. She nodded, but her arm went backwards like a salam. What I'd really like to see is a rider do a very pretty practice with a 5 count. Number 1 is put your reins in your left hand. Number 2 is put her arm directly out at about 35-40 degrees with your fingers tight like a military salute and your thumb right up against your palm. And then a nod on number 3. And on count 4, you put your hands back on the rein. And 5, you can either move off or stay there for a second until you get settled, or like if your judge stood up and you look up and you see that they're not seated yet, and if you just give them a second to sit down, they can pay attention to you better. At least you're not riding off when they're still in the process of sitting down and maybe their chair is going to scrape and scare your horse. Not every judge stands up to salute, but a lot of them do. So give them a chance to sit down and then move off. One of the things that this gal wrote into me, Dana wrote in and said, did I halt too long afterwards? And I'm like, no, you can stand there as long as you need to. It's okay. Like, settle yourself, get your horse organized, and think about moving off. Look up at the judge and make eye contact with them even, and look at this, look at the letter to get straight when you move off. So I thought that was all elegant. As far as how long she stood there was fine. Let this roll. He makes a prompt move off. He is listing ever so slightly this way, just a little. And here he is, side 2. So one of the things we're going to do is just pull him right back up here a little bit. Here he comes, here he comes, here he comes. And we're going to stop him right there. Okay, so what the judge sees is a horse on the line with a square halt, and maybe they'd like to see the rider a little bit more balanced left and right. But at this point, that didn't mark off for that movement because it didn't adversely affect the horse. The horse was relatively straight despite the listing back and forth. One thing that you do see, though, is as the horse progresses in the jog and comes closer to the judge's booth, is that this horse is in a very loose connection. So a little bit on the forehand and a little bit inactive behind, and, you know, kind of really long in its connection. I would rather see an intro less connection than more if the horse isn't in a harmonious connection. There are people that kind of take up the reins and the horse gets jammed together and starts flipping its head or something like that. I want to see the horse actively relaxed going forward. And then if the rider doesn't have so much rein connection, well, I'm a little forgiving of that. But one thing we see here now as she turned, that once again, this little bit high, wide hand problem, her hands should be triangulated. They should be right in front of the horn. And here we're looking at, we all have a crease in our boot. And when you look down at your boots, you're going to start looking at that crease and you're going to say, aha, she told me that the center of your stirrup should be in the center of that crease, which means that she's on her toes. And when you're on your toes, you end up with your leg in front of you and not enough support to your seat. And this means that you're posting ever so slightly behind the motion of the horse, which causes a drag on impulsion. So riders that get their stirrups onto the ball of their foot, and that is that this is on the center of that crease, and then get their legs back under them just a little bit more when they post the jog, they can produce more impulsion or energy from their jog, and they're more in balance. So some of that shifting around might even have been just, hey, I'm on my toes. I don't have much support from my seat. So how's my beginning impression? Well, I kind of like this horse and rider, and they made a good impression, came in and were quiet at the halt and had a square halt. And, you know, I'm thinking it's 758 there. As they turn the corner, I would adjust my score based on the balance and connection, because now I can see this, and that's going to go into the next box. And I can see that the horse is a little bit on the forehand here through the turn. But that first center line was pretty straight, and a nice steady halt, fairly good for this level. So we're going to be at least 7, 7, 5, 8-ish, and tell her that's a good start. And now start to get this arm position a little bit lower, and get your foot in the stirrup a little bit more, and get yourself balanced in those stirrups. Nice start, and keep going. Lots of potential here. Thanks for joining me, and feel free to send in some clips to us. Until next time, take care. Hug your horse for me. Bye.